Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. For today's video, I want to talk about something that I know a lot of women don't want to hear this, but it's very, very true. They already came out with studies that showed and proved that when a lot of women get sick with cancers and all types of sicknesses, that their husbands will often leave them. But something that's also not talked about is how the men will take advantage of a woman when she's sick. I mean, you can barely move, you have sores in your mouth, all types of stuff, and they're still coming in the nursing homes trying to get head from the woman and SMEX and everything, and making you do all types of things when you're sick because they don't care about anyone but themselves. Okay. Also, a lot of the danger that women are in being in nursing homes where you have men who are taking advantage of the women in the nursing homes. Okay, the men who work there, patients, all types of stuff. Like I said, as long as you are a woman on planet Earth and you have a JJ, you will never be safe on the planet. Okay, that's just a fact. No matter how old you get. Okay, I have seen recently cases of women being taken advantage of, being SA'd in nursing homes. Okay, so I want to share a few videos with you of a woman talking about right here the nursing homes being a breeding ground for a lot of men to prey on women. Also, a woman talking about men taking advantage of their sick girlfriends and wives in the nursing homes. Okay, so I'm going to read to you some comments left by women talking about what happened when their mother or grandmother or even themselves were sick, and how their partner, their man, their husband responded.
Hi guys, Nicola here. So, I've been seeing on social media, they coined this term called the male loneliness epidemic. And let me tell you guys, this is not something new. Social media, social media has the uncanny ability to shed light on a lot of topics that have been either been hidden, been secret, or a lot of darkness has covered it. And social media has just shine a spotlight on a lot of things that a lot of people do not talk about or do not want to talk about. And the male loneliness epidemic is one of those things. Let me give you an experience that I had that I noticed has been happening for years, and it has been happening years before 2025, right? Let me give you guys a little back context. I worked as a certified nursing assistant for years in long-term care facilities. While I was working as a certified CNA, I went to school. That's how I put myself through school, and I got my degree in healthcare management, and all of my employment predominantly has been in social work, meaning I work in skilled nursing facilities, long-term care, aka nursing homes, right? So when I tell you I have experience giving direct care and indirect care, baby, from both ends of the spectrum. I remember in one of my I want to say upper middle class nursing homes, and I have a few social workers that still follow me, so I don't have no reason to lie. I had this man that came into the nursing home, right? And his wife was visiting him religiously. And I remembered when I was putting, because I was his social worker, and when we were putting together the care plan, the care discharge plan for him to go home, the wife came to me and she said, "Nicola, can I speak to you a minute?" I said, "Sure." She said, could you, I said, "Could I what?" She said, I said, I don't want to call her name. I said, like I would say, Miss Mary. I said, "Miss Mary, just come out and tell me what you want to tell me." She said, "Could you find a reason to let him stay here for longer?" And I froze. She says she has been married for over 30 years, and this is the first time now that he's in a nursing home. I think he had a fall and he was there for rehab, but he did not heal or recuperate as fast as we thought he was. So he was in there for an extended period of time. And she would visit like maybe say 3-4 times a week. She would be there. And I remember I sat in that discharge meeting and that woman looked at me like every time, you know, we involved her, and she would show up and the doctors would make recommendation, the nurses would make recommendation, the home health care would make recommendation. She would just have this look of utter fear on her face. And when she came to me and she said, can you just find a reason to let him stay here a little longer? One instance. Another instance, I remember this lady, she had an incident and she came into the nursing home, and the husband visited her once or maybe twice within a 30-day period. And after that, we could not get that man on the phone. We could not get that man on the phone. The last time I got him and he came to the meeting in the social services office, and I said to him, sir, we have to put together a discharge plan for your wife because, you know, she have recuperated and she's able to go home with care. And I wasn't talking about he was gonna provide the care hands-on per se. She could have gotten 24-hour home health care, but we told him we have to put together a discharge plan so your wife can come home. He said okay, he will get back to me. That man never answered the phone again. He never answered the phone, and they never had any children because she said her husband never wanted any children. That man abandoned that woman in the nursing home. He never answered his phone again. Let me tell you something that I noticed too. You see, in the nursing home, a lot of the male residents, they would prey on the female residents who are lack capacity to make decisions, or who are uncommunicative in some way, shape, and form. The ones who were up and about and could protect themselves, they barely even looked at them. But the ones that it got so bad that we had to line out the female residents who you know, who lack capacity to make decisions or were uncommunicative in some ways. We had to always have them in the view of the staff, because these male residents would sit in a corner and they would observe. And as soon as they think the staff was not paying attention, you see, they would approach these women and started to touch them inappropriately. And we would have to go to them and say, sir, what are you doing? And they, oh, I was just talking. And mind you, it has nothing to do with skin color, whether they were, or it's the same thing. And I think a lot of these family members know that these are the type of men they have in their families. Let me tell you something. It got so bad to the point that we had this man on our floor. When I tell you pedophile is an understatement. You know, you have visiting hours in a skilled nursing facility, in a nursing home, where, you know, the grandchildren would visit their grandparents. If this man was physically on the floor, no children could come on the floor. When I read this man's file, I knew there were devils walking on feet. Once that man was on the floor, no children could be on the floor. He did not did all of his time in incarceration. It was because his health started to decline and he needed care. That's how we ended up in a skilled nursing facility. But once a minor, no minor could come on the floor once this man was present on the floor. In one skilled nursing facility I lived in, it got so bad that all the males had to be placed on one floor. And absolutely no female CNAs could be allowed to go on the floor to provide any care to them, not even in a case of emergency. I used to be the one to do care plans, and with Thanksgiving and Christmas and holidays coming around, we would ask the family, you're coming to take the family, you would have to give us days notice because the doctor would have to write an order, get the medication for you to come in, because sometimes during those holidays, you could come and get the family on a Thursday, bring them back Sunday, so everything had to be prepared. 99.999% of the time, it's a female family that shows up for them. I could count on one hand the amount of time a male resident family shows up for him. A lot of the male residents had no family, no contact in their care plan. If they passed, we called the morgue, and the morgue come for them. One of the most extreme cases that I saw, I had a gentleman on my caseload. His file was completely red, and the family made it in bold letters, only call family if this resident dies. The only time the family's phone from this nursing home is supposed to ring is if he has transitioned out of this world. The family did not care how we lived. The only time their phone on their end is supposed to ring coming from the nursing home is to let them know that he died. The male loneliness epidemic did not start now.
A man would show up and demand oral from his wife whenever she was doing chemo. I used to take my mom to chemo and radiation every day for almost a year, and a husband would show up, get oral from his wife, and then leave. 95 or so % of the time that women are ill, their partners leave them. Their husbands leave them. There's a counseling center set up to prepare women for that reality. I experienced it myself. I was at home crying, thinking that I was going to expire, and my almost ex-husband was out there cheating with anyone who would have him. To be fair, he was already cheating, but he really amped it up the singular time that I needed him to reciprocate the care that I had given him all of those years. That's the reality for a huge majority of women. I joined a Facebook group when he was having back surgery so I could learn as much as I could. Women were asking questions about, how do I keep this man off of me, because I'm only 5 days post-op and he won't take no for an answer. That led me down the rabbit hole of other groups where other surgeries, no matter what they were, hysterectomies, etc., where all the women were doing was asking, how can I keep this man off of me? Or how long did you wait? Or horrific stories about, he refused to wait. My stitches burst open. I got a horrific infection. I went septic, etc. When I say we are used, abused, discarded, this is the conversation that needs to be had. Women showing up to their 6-week postpartum appointment pregnant. We put the entire onus of that on the woman. Why are you having sex 2 weeks post-op? How could you possibly be pregnant 6 weeks after having a baby? 9 times out of 10, it is coercion or it is rape. That's the conversation that needs to be had. He forced me to my knees less than 3 hours after I gave birth to our son. I was bleeding so badly it dripped on his shoe. When he was done, he called me a disgusting pig. I found out my ex-husband was drugging me at night when we had tea together before bed. I woke up one night and just laid there shocked as he was actively having sex with me. I couldn't believe it. He pushed my leg to the side and just rolled over when he was done, thinking that I was still asleep. My ex would take pictures of me both clothed and naked without my knowledge or consent and send them to his mistresses, and they would make fun of my body. It's been 10 years and I still cry when I remember reading the things that he was saying about me to those women. Dropped me off at radiation, said he'd be back in 2 hours. Cleaned out our bank account, moved his stuff out of our home, changed his number. I haven't seen him since. We were married for 12 years. My husband of 15 years left me for my sister after I found out we couldn't conceive. He said I was a worthless woman. Those are just a handful of examples of messages that I get on a daily basis. Testimonies from women all over the world. Abusive men will use examples like that to excuse or downplay their own abuse. My ex falls into that category. I was doing X, Y, Z. I was cheating. I was doing this, and this. But I didn't force you onto your knees after you gave birth to our son. Or I wasn't raping you in your sleep. Therefore, I'm not abusive. And women will be in my comments. We're made to think that we should be grateful for the absence of abuse. I have thousands of comments saying, I'm so grateful that my partner waited the recommended time postpartum and didn't force me. That is the bare minimum, not something for you to be grateful for. I'm grateful that when I found out I had MS, my husband didn't abandon me. He stuck by me. That's not something for you to be grateful for. That is the bare minimum. You should expect it from your partner. Not in the absence of abuse, we should be grateful.
Betrayal. 4 years ago, believing it would be a safe space. Alvarado raped her mother. Alvarado was a volunteer piano player at La Mirada Heights. The whole nightmare caught on camera.
Screamed.
Anderson set up Ring cameras throughout her mom's apartment because of her dementia-related symptoms. Here is some of that shocking footage. You see Alvarado in the victim's bedroom, taking his clothes off. An hour later, you see him here, emerging from the bedroom, naked. Alvarado throws a condom in the trash can, then gets dressed. Anderson was at work when this happened, but started receiving several motion-triggered notifications from Ring.
When I had a chance to go back to my office and check my phone, I see on the notification picture that there was a man in the room bending down, tying his shoes.
She called the facility and says 2 workers entered the room to check on her mother.
Are you naked, Mama?
Notice her confusion as they ask questions.
Are you okay? Everything okay? Yeah? Who's the guy who was here? Think about it, Mama, and slow, so you can tell me.
Do you know what happened? She's like, no. Okay, did you want to have sex, Mom? No. No.
Alvarado is facing felony charges, 1 count for rape, 1 for a lewd act on a dependent adult.
Kind of following the advice of the detective.
Anderson says the LA County District Attorney's Office has been slow to prosecute this case. She and her lawyer question why the DA has not announced it publicly, because they believe there could be more victims.
You expect a certain level of security and protection, and that does not appear to have been the case for my client.
We went to La Mirada Heights looking for answers. The manager on site could not speak with us on camera, but we did receive this statement saying in part, quote, "We are disturbed by these allegations and will fully cooperate with any criminal investigation. Because this matter involves an ongoing criminal case and out of respect for the privacy of our resident, it is not appropriate to comment further."
Justice looks like in this case that the facility will be held responsible and liable.
So here are some comments that women were leaving under these videos. My husband told me I was no longer a human being, but a financial transaction after I became disabled. Then he asked me if I thought it was fair that he should have to pay me alimony. Well, let's let the court decide. He then fought my disability status, which was insane. But I had to gather so much documentation and pay for the attorney while dying. He didn't even file. He left me, but I still had to do all the work, after the divorce or during the divorce or something. My mom was dying of colon cancer, and her husband, not my dad, couldn't get it from her because she refused. So he would try to get it from her friend and co-worker. She passed May 5th of 2015. The sight of him makes me sick. Okay, let's see. My dad put my mom in a nursing home because she couldn't stand up for long periods of time to do the cooking and the cleaning in the huge 9-bedroom house that he didn't want to leave but expected her to clean. She also mowed the garden and chopped wood because he didn't want radiators. Now he's alone in a big house, deteriorating with no one visiting him. He's physically and mentally well. I hope young women learn from older women. Do not live with men. Have to skip through a little bit because there's some technical issues. I just want to read some of these just horrendous stories. I had a hospice patient. Her husband was significantly much older, and they married later in life. He said he was mad that she was dying because he married her so that he would have someone to take care of him. She heard that and her kids. I was furious. I have too many stories. I had an ex-boyfriend. We were at a party. He got in a mood, so he slipped me something in my drink. I ended up laying on the bed and begged him to stay with me because I felt ill. I heard him outside of the door telling his friends I was available to have SMEX with. Guys started coming in the room, and a friend noticed and came into the room to kick them out. Luckily, nothing happened. I choose the bear. The husband of a lady with dementia wanted her discharged from the hospital because he needed her to do her wifely duties and wasn't going to pay for it just because she was sick. I called her daughters to let them know what was going on. My ex-husband, after I had brain surgery, said, well, your mouth still works. My ex-husband left me when I had a brain tumor, 13 years together, and his excuse was, you're too expensive, because the medical bills were insane. I was told by my doctor I needed my pelvic to rest after having, being going through pregnancy, or I would miscarry the baby. I was essayed twice by my man or husband the same month, and my child was born stillborn at 20 weeks and 5 days. When I was married, I had horrible menstrual cramps and told my then husband I was on my period. He said to me, well, your mouth isn't bleeding, and then laughed. He couldn't even look at me when he said this because he knew he was wrong. I felt disrespected and violated. Needless to say, we only stayed married for 7 months after that. I left after 4 months. When I had to go to get chemotherapy, my husband took me to the first session and then didn't bother taking me to other sessions. He lied and told me he had to work, but he was actually at the casino gambling. I had to try to find a ride to my chemotherapy sessions, and then I would sit there by myself. No one will ever convince me that marriage is a good deal for women. You just have a horrible person that you're married to. Horrible people, horrible people. It was my first pregnancy. I told him I don't feel well. He forced himself on me a few days later, and I went into early labor and my water ruptured. I had the baby 2 weeks later because she was only 23 weeks and 5 days. I had a horrible infection and was admitted to the hospital and almost passed away. Okay, so let us know in the comment section, can you relate to any of these women? Have you worked in healthcare, and have you seen men come in just to get SMEX and essay their girlfriends and wives at their lowest points? Have you experienced this yourself, abandonment and mistreatment and neglect and being forced to have SMEX and do sexual things when you were literally sick of cancer and all types of illnesses? And what did you do? Did you stay with your boyfriend or husband? Did you get a divorce? Did you express your disdain for this? Have they changed? Did they change? Did you leave them? What happened? Let us know in the comments